Okay, in order to explain some of the parts of the game a little bit better, I'm going to make a quick switch here. Obviously, you wouldn't do this normally. So let's take a look down here. This one says if you pick three that are equal to each other, three that are the same. So for example, if I took these three, then my opponent would get a privilege. Or if you take two pearls, for example, those two, again, your opponent would get one of the privileges. And of course, we've already discussed whoever puts these out, the opponent gets one of the privileges. So the way the game is played is that on your turn, you have two options. You can take up to three of the gems, not including the gold, and you put them into your supply, or you can then use the gems that you have to acquire the cards. When one acquires a card, that becomes a permanent black. And if you wanted to pay for something else that required black, say here for example, this already counts as one. You would only need a single token to pay back to cover the cost. Here. And remember, ultimately you're trying to get crowns and points for the victory. We didn't mention this third one, but what this amounts to is having 10 points in one color column. So on this board, we could get a decent start by having these two cards, and now we've got 4 points on the way to our 10 points in black. Okay, let's take a look at how the game plays out a little bit. Again, we're saying I'm the first person, the privilege went over there, and now I get to pick here. Notice that certain cards, and they tend to be the ones that have benefits of some kind, require that you have these. So acquiring two pearls is a very good idea. And that, I think, is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by going ahead and taking these two plus a third. And so you can take on the diagonal or on any of the straight rows or columns. You don't have to start in any particular place. You just have to take three in a row. So I'm going to put these out for me. And of course, the opponent is going to get that. And then now it's the opponent's turn. They can look at the board and they can look out here, and they have the ability to get three black. They could get three blue, which is often a very good thing. So let's say that they decided to get the three black. And I'm just going to put theirs over here for the ease of my manipulating them and not having to reach all the way across the board. But since they got three, I get to have the privilege. All right, so just keep going back and forth this way. At the moment, I'm thinking I'd like to get this one, but they have most of the black. So it's going to make that a little bit more difficult for me. But I could come over here and be looking for blue and white, and that's not half bad because I can get most of what I need right there. Now, here's the thing to note. You can only have 10. If you acquire more than 10, something has to go back into the bag. And otherwise, you need to start spending them so that you don't acquire too many. All right, back to the opponent. They already have the black. They could get a point by going here. So why don't they go ahead and aim for that? So 2 red and the blue. Their turn is done. back over to me, and again, I'm aiming for the white and the blue. So I'm going to look for 2 blue, but I can only take 2 if I take those because there's no third in a row. I could decide I wanted to get 3 or 3, but otherwise, I think this is probably the best choice at the moment. Back over to here. So my opponent is prepared to acquire this card, for which they need to return 2 and 3. And those go into the bag. And they are now 1 point on the way to the 20-point victory. Back over to me. Well, I have the 2 white, 2 blue, and 1 pearl, which allows me to acquire this card. And, oops, we forgot to flip over a card for this one. I just took this one. We won't flip that over until I finish up my turn, but I do get to go again. That's what this symbol means. I only have these 3. That will not allow me to acquire anything. I could go back to the board, but I would like there to be better options on the board. So I'm going to go ahead and replenish the board from here. So again, we reach in and we follow, starting in this center, and we follow the arrow, which comes out over here. So the next one is here, and then here, and then here. Continuing around. And the last one, empty. Now, I filled it up, my opponent gets a privilege. There aren't any in the supply, so I have to give up one of mine. Now, if they already had all 3 of them, there isn't any more they could get, so that would just be the end of it. But now I get to go back to the drawing board over here, and if I was interested in this privilege, I could go here, could go there, could go here, but this way I run into the gold, and this way I run into the gold, which would reduce the number that I could acquire. Don't think I want to do that. But let's just try this one, and this one. So these 3. Now I have 2 pearls, but I didn't grab 2 at the same time, so no privileges would move. There's the card, and back to the opponent, who's down to 1, and so they need to go looking for more. Now we have a few here that have like 1 of each color, so they already have blue. This would be white, red, and black, white, green, and red. So do we see those combinations? We do, white, green, and red. That's going to allow them to acquire something. And I have the same thing to do. One thing I notice is I could do this. And I'm aiming there for the crown. Back to the opponent, who says, yep, white, blue, red, green and red. They all go back in here. And now they have a blue and a black. And over to me, I'm going to go ahead, 3 red, and now I have green and black. And 1 crown on my way to 10 crowns for the victory. Bring out the cards. I am not doing good at that today. Try to keep track of that. But this is how the game plays, and you just continue, hopefully by acquiring enough cards, it becomes easier to pay for the more expensive cards as you move up, but whoever achieves 20 points or 10 crowns or 10 points within a single color will become the victor. And that's how you play Splendor Duel. It's a really fun, really quick 2-player game. I hope you enjoy it.